I come from a family with a lot of abuse.
Vengo de una
rage,
familia con muchísimo abuso,
and
rabia, cólera.
by the time I got abstinent and sober in 1977, at the
Y
age
para
of
cuando
32,
me hice
I
abstinente y
was
sobria,
suffering from a whole long list of
sufría de una
maladies.
lista gigantísima de
I
realidades
had
dolorosas.
bulimia, but I
Tenía
didn't
bulimia,
know it then because nobody was
pero
talking
en esa
about
época nadie
bulimia.
hablaba de bulimia.
4'11". At the time that I got abstinent and sober, I weighed 183 pounds.
Cuando
And
estuve
now
sobre
I
y
weigh
abstinente,
101 pounds.
pesaba 182 libras y ahora peso.
I was cutting, mutilating
Me
myself,
cortaba, me mutilaba yo sola,
which was quite socially difficult because
que
I
era
was
obviamente
already been
socialmente
teaching
muy
high school
difícil.
for, I forget, 4 years, I think. I taught high school English in Massachusetts for.
Yo daba
4
clases
years, but
de high
4
school, de
years, 5 years, something
preparatoria
like that.
en Massachusetts
I was cutting.
y me
And
estaba cortando, me estaba mutilando.
I was getting up in the middle of the night and
Me levantaba a la
drinking
mitad de la
mustard
noche
and vinegar and water to make
para
myself
beber
throw up after binges.
y mezcolanzas de vinagre para poder
I was
vomitar.
trying to do Weight Watchers for the zillionth
Estaba
time.
tratando de hacer Weight Watchers en todo este tiempo
And so I wasn't keeping a lot of what we would call binge foods in the house.
y no mantenía
And there were no
comida alcohólica en la
microwaves
casa.
then. There were no cell phones.
No había teléfono
There was
celular,
no internet.
no había internet,
So therefore, no email, no greennet,
así que no había
no
correo
international
electrónico,
network of
tampoco
GreySheeters.
había una
And
red internacional de GreySheeters.
I had not heard anybody else talk about bulimia.
Yo no conocía a nadie
except
que supiera
myself.
de bulimia,
I
excepto
tried to talk
mí.
about that at my Weight Watcher meeting. and
Trataba de
the
hablar
Weight
acerca
Watcher
en mi
lecturer
reunión de
was
Weight
shocked.
Watchers
She was shocked to
y
hear
Weight Watchers
what I
estaba
was eating in the middle
escandalizada
of the night and how much.
y decía, ¿qué? ¿Cómo te levantas en la
3
noche?
or 4 years later,
4 años
when I
después,
had 3 or 4 years of back-to-back abstinence, I
cuando ya
spoke to
tenía
her
4
daughter, and her
años de
daughter weighed,
abstinencia,
I think, close to 350 pounds. So
dice, le
I think she
ayudé,
might have seen some eating disorder in her own house.
le
But at the
ayudé a una
time,
de
it
sus
sounded like
hijas
I was like the weirdo
a estar
in the group.
abstinente, porque ella sabía que yo era la
I had
loquita del
tried a
grupo.
lot of different kinds of psychotherapy.
Había tratado
I
muchísimos
don't
tipos
come
de
from a
terapia.
religious background.
No vengo
Not whatsoever. I come from a Jewish family.
de una familia religiosa.
Uh,
Yo soy una familia, pertenezco a una familia
The
secular.
culinary was Jewish. The Yiddishisms were Jewish.
Eso
The
es
jokes were Jewish.
culturalmente
There was no
éramos
religion.
judíos, pero no era una
Nor
religión.
did I ever acquire any religion, although in my early abstinence and sobriety, I
Nunca
tried
adquirí
every
una
goddamn
religión.
thing I possibly could to help myself calm down. Once I put down the food,
Pero al
according to the
principio,
GreySheet program,
una vez que dejé la
I
comida,
had to weigh and measure my food
que
without
empecé a
exception,
pesar
no
y a
matter
medir
what.
sin excepción, pase
Even
lo
when there
que
was a
pase,
fire in the house, even when
aun cuando
somebody
hubiera un
died,
fuego en la
even
casa,
when I ended up in the ER with some kind of an emergency,
no importa que estaba en la
even
sala
when
de
it was socially
emergencia,
unacceptable,
aun
once I started doing that,
cuando era
I
socialmente
was pretty
inaceptable,
wired.
estaba siempre muy
and
ansiosa,
panicky
ansiosa y en pánico,
angry and distrustful.
enojada y
And
sospechosa.
I had been taught from an early age really not to listen to anyone. My
Desde
father
muy
was a
pequeña me
control freak,
dijeron,
mother
no
had
escuches a
control
nadie, no confíes en
problems as
nadie.
well. The attempt in the family was to acculturate me to listen to them and obey them and ignore
La
everyone
cultura de
else.
la familia era
Ignore
muy
my
encerrada,
teachers,
nada más
ignore my
escucha a
little
nosotros.
friends, ignore the neighbors. But I actually was very fortunate because I was
Pero me siento
defiant
afortunada de
and
todas maneras porque
individualistic
yo
from
era
an early age. And I think that's
desafiante,
what saved
individualista
me
desde el
from
principio y
some of the
eso fue lo que me
mental illness in the
salvó.
family, because I have
Eso
one
fue lo que me
sister
salvó.
who's, I think she's 4 years younger than I am.
Tengo una hermana que es
And
4 años
she
menor que
doesn't,
yo.
we rarely speak, like
Nunca
maybe
hablamos.
once in a few years. And she grew up very, very acquiescent, and I grew up quite defiant. And so I was punished frequently for
Crecí
being
sumamente
defiant.
desafiante.
Once I got abstinent,
Una vez
I
que fui
think, in
abstinente, yo
retrospect,
creo,
that was helpful
en
to me,
retrospectiva,
because
creo que
people
fue
said, what are you doing? That kind of diet doesn't
beneficioso para
work.
mí.
You can't eliminate certain foods
Porque la gente me decía, no puedes, es imposible lo que
what are you
estás
gonna do
haciendo, no
about
puedes
the
eliminar ciertos
banquet
grupos
for the
de
retiree
comida.
superintendent?
¿Por qué estás haciendo?
How
Eso
are
no
you
es
going to
natural.
celebrate your birthday? Whatever.
¿Cómo vas a celebrar tu
What
cumpleaños?
about happy
Lo que estás
hour?
haciendo es una locura.
I said no to happy hour.
Sí, entonces
I
dijo, ¿cómo
said
vas
no
a
to the
celebrar la hora
superintendent's
feliz?
banquet. This is in the early years. No to the superintendent's banquet because they told me I couldn't bring my own food.
No pude ir a un banquete
Maybe
porque me
I
dijeron que
maybe
no
I did
podía traer mi
before or
propia
after.
comida.
I don't know. Didn't even
Entonces
have
ya me
to
lo comía antes o después.
I finally got absent. I met a small group of people who still were the
Finalmente,
original Saturday morning meeting.
finalmente encontré un pequeño grupo de
There were
personas
a small
sábado en
group
la
of
mañana.
people, and
Era
there
un
were
grupo
some
muy
people
pequeño. Y había
in
algunas
OA
personas
who were
en
hangers
recuperarse
on
compulsivas
because they had the idea, or maybe I should say the fantasy,
porque tenían la
that they
fantasía
could pick up our what they saw as willpower,
que
but
podían,
keep eating whatever it was that they, I have to
que
eat this because I'm
podían
Italian.
tener
I have to
suficiente
do
fuerza de
this, and I haven't been
voluntad
to
para
see
comer
me.
cualquier
People had
cosa.
many reasons, many
La gente tenía
beliefs.
muchas ideas y
It
muchas
doesn't matter
creencias.
what I eat as long as I pray and
No,
walk the
no,
steps. There
no
were
importa lo que
many
coma,
beliefs like that. So these
mientras
people
rece y
came
llore.
to that original Saturday morning meeting. But that Saturday morning meeting, that small group, I did not start that group, but I was a
Yo no
very
empecé esa
early
reunión,
member.
pero fui miembro desde muy temprano.
That group was
Este grupo
determined to
estaba
draw a line
determinado de
between
establecer
what
un
was
límite
OA and what was
entre lo que
GreySheet.
era
So the
comedores
lines we
compulsivos y
drew
lo que era
were,
GreySheet.
you can share at our meeting,
Entonces,
but if you're not GreySheet abstinent, we don't want to hear about your other food plan.
si
And
no
you
eres
cannot
GreySheet
sponsor
abstinent,
at our
no,
meeting. And if you're not
no
GreySheet
puedes ser
abstinent
madrina
for at least
aquí.
90 days,
Tienes que
and
estar
you can't
abstinente por
qualify
90
at our
días.
meeting, we don't want to hear
Tampoco
your
puedes ser
story
oradora en nuestras
unless
reuniones,
you're GreySheet abstinent.
a
for at
menos de
least
que estés
90
abstinente
days.
en GreySheet.
And I tried it. I tried it the
Lo
way I
intenté.
tried Weight Watchers and
Lo intenté
Braces
cuidar
and
kilos,
diet pills. That was when I was like 13 years
intenté
old when I was
pastillas
on
de
diet pills.
dieta.
That was a fast fail because I was already hyper and paranoid, and that really
Estaba
made
como
me
loca, estaba paranoica todo el
I
tiempo,
knew that
ansiosa
even
todo
though
el
I was
tiempo.
not very smart at that age.
Sabía,
There was something they were selling called AYDS in those days. It
en
was
esa época
candy
vendían
that you
unas
could
cosas
eat
que eran unos
supposedly to make your belly
dulcecillos
feel
que
full, so you wouldn't
supuestamente
overeat.
te iban a hacer
I
sentir
ate those by the case.
llena.
When I
Me
finally got
comía
abstinent, I
cajas de
had a whole
cajas.
I had a closet shelf
Tenía
full of
un
that
closet
stuff.
lleno de esas.
And I could come up with. Oh, also, eventually, in a Gestalt therapy group, I
Y
met
eventualmente,
a girl who was bulimic.
en un
It was
grupo de
a
terapia,
tiny little
conocí a
girl.
una
She told me
chava
she
que
was in
también era
OA. I said,
bulímica.
she was probably weighed what I weigh now. And she said, "Oh, that's because I take Epicac after
Era
binges."
delgada
And then I
porque
started taking Epicac
se
instead of
tomaba otra
mustard and vinegar
sustancia.
and water. Epicac is very tricky for a compulsive eater who
El
likes the
Epicac
sweet
es
things because it's very
sumamente,
sweet when it
es
goes
muy
down, and
dulce,
then it makes you really sick.
te hace sentir
That's when I
bien.
was 183 pounds taking
Ahí cuando
Epicac
pesaba
in the middle of the
183
night.
libras.
So anyway, I tried all those things. And I
Intenté todo
also
eso.
tried some sensible things like Gestalt therapy.
También intenté
I
otras
tried
cosas
Rogerian
razonables,
therapy for
como
quite a while. And
psicoterapia.
actually, Carl Rogers, the originator of Rogerian therapy, his
Psicoterapia
daughter Natalie was my
rogeriana y de
therapist.
Gestalt.
She knew a goddamn thing about compulsive eating,
No
but she was a
sabía
very
nada
kind
de,
person.
no sabía
She
nada de
used to tell me, Nora, if you come, therapy was
muy
at her house.
bondadosa, pero
She used to say, Nora, if you come to my house and you're early, help yourself to whatever you want in the refrigerator.
decía, bueno, si
Well,
vienes a
listen,
mi
Natalie,
terapia
this is what
y
I'm
llegas
eating in the middle of the
temprano,
night.
cómete lo que quieras en el
And
refrigerador.
what other sensible things did I
¿Qué
do?
otras cosas razonables hice?
Nothing is
Ya ni me
encouraging.
acuerdo,
Or
pero
too
ahora
many
no
sensible
suena
things I
tan
was doing.
terrible.
Except I stayed in school. I got my bachelor's
Pero me
degree.
quedé en la clase
I
de
flunked
cocina.
out of my master's degree the first
Me
time. I picked it
gradué,
up later
tuve una
after 20 years
maestría,
of sobriety and abstinence. I got myself a job. And in
conseguí un
those days, some of the
trabajo
GreySheeters were saying it's not important what you do for work, all
y
you
en
need
esos
is
días
vegetable money, stay home, put your
decían,
bedroom
quédate en tu
slippers
casa.
on. I had the thought from the early time of my abstinence and sobriety that
Desde el principio de mi
matter what
abstinencia en
job I
sobriedad,
did, I
que no
had done
importa
in college and high school,
qué trabajo teniera yo,
waitressing, and it was
cuando
like
fui
I grew up in a
mesera,
very sexist culture, so the
pertenezco a
stuff
una
that grew
cultura
up
muy
with, like,
sexista.
babysitting, that kind of thing. And I had the idea that no matter what job I did,
Pensé que no
I
importa
would probably be a
qué
misfit,
debo
because
hacer.
I was really a misfit in those days.
Yo nunca iba a
And,
pertenecer a ningún
and
lugar.
meanwhile, I had this teaching job that was
Y mientras tanto
quite
tenía
a
este
lucrative
trabajo de
job, and it
maestra,
was then a very stable school, and
que era muy estable.
I stayed with that. I stayed with that
Y ahí
job
me
in the
quedé.
early years when a lot of people were saying you should quit. This
Desde
happened,
el
that
principio, cuando
happened.
decían deberías
And
renunciar.
I had, like, even my nerves had nerves. I
Y
was just,
yo estaba tan nerviosa que
I
aún mis
thought if
nervios
you had,
estaban nerviosos.
in those days, if you had
En esos días,
investigated my
si hubieras
behavior and
investigado
my
mi
psyche
comportamiento y mi
from a
psique
modern perspective,
desde una perspectiva
you
moderna,
might say I was on the autism spectrum,
me
because
hubieras
every
dicho que soy
noise, every
autista.
light, every harsh word, drove me crazy.
Porque
And
todo
at the
me
same time,
molestaba.
overreacting to
Y
harsh
al mismo
words,
tiempo
I had the
reaccionaba
biggest brain
exageradamente
in
a
the
todo
world and was annoying everybody. So anyway,
y molestaba a todo el
I
mundo.
got abstinent
Así
and
que
sober despite all that.
a
And paid
pesar de
attention
todo
to the
eso, me
direction.
mantuve
And there were
sobria y
things I
abstinente.
heard
Y con
that I
las cosas que
tried out in the
escuché,
early years that
que
I no
intenté en los
longer
primeros
believe are
años,
viable for me. Like, I
que no
don't
eran necesarias.
believe that there's a kind God who is ordaining what's going to happen to me, that everything happens to me for a reason, that if there's a crisis, the thing to do is to pray and wait for God to take care of it.
Ahora yo no
Like,
creo. Ahora
first
yo
do the
creo
strategies, have your plan
que,
A,
que,
plan
que,
B,
que las cosas
plan
no se van
C,
a
and
arreglar
it all
nada
goes
más
through.
orando.
It's like,
No, ahora lo que creo es primero implementa las
happening.
estrategias.
That's when I pray, like when they're wheeling me into
Primero
the OR and
establece las
stuff
estrategias
like,
y
nothing
después,
left, nothing else to do.
primero
Not
hace el
bother the
trabajo.
sponsor again, nothing. So anyway, I'm abstinent, and it's
Estoy abstinente.
thrilling to be abstinent.
Y es la buena
It's
voluntad de estar
thrilling to be
abstinente.
abstinent for a
La
long, long
buena
time, and to
voluntad
get over the withdrawal, and to have
para
made, I don't
superar
even
el
have a
síndrome
lot
de
of good
supresión.
choices in my life, even though I was really screwing up before age 32. Now
A
I'm
pesar de que
77.
ahora tengo
I'm a
77 años.
weightlifter. I bike 30 miles a week with my husband.
Ando en
Do
bicicleta
yoga.
30 millas con mi marido,
We
hago
have a
yoga,
pool where I live now. I went from like not
nado.
having any money and bouncing checks all over town. Now we live in a house
Me
in
fui
California,
de no tener
condo
ni
in
un quinto
California, where we can
a
see the
tener una
ocean
casa
from my
hermosa en
deck.
California,
And with
cerca
the
del
indoor
mar.
pools, I work out in the indoor pool every day. I just came from the indoor
Y
pool,
nado.
singing to myself in the pool. It's a 55 plus community, which really means like 70 plus for most people.
Vivo en una
So
comunidad de
everybody
más de
thinks, "Oh, they
56
buy
años.
here,
En
they
realidad
get
quiere
easy
decir
here,
más de
nobody comes
70
to the
años.
pool." I'm in there by myself singing and
Y
having a
nadie
great time.
viene a la
So,
alberca más que yo, a la
That's
piscina.
my story. I have a
Esa es mi
very
historia.
happy life today.
Tengo una vida muy feliz hoy.
When things happen,
Cuando
and
las cosas
crises
suceden
happen, of course,
y las
in
crisis
everyone's
suceden,
life, I think. They happen one at a time, usually.
pasan una a la vez.
And I deal with them one at a time. Very
Y
fortunate
lidio
because
con
I
ellas
have a
una vez,
very
una por una.
intelligent husband who's also a very good
Tengo un marido muy inteligente,
strategizer in
que también es muy
emergencies.
buen
And
estratega.
just for an example, I had
Por ejemplo,
what they thought was a stroke a couple of weeks ago. It was like totally weird because I'm a really
tuvo
healthy, fit
lo que
person. But anyway,
parecía
I
ser
have
un ataque al
AFib.
corazón.
And I had this thing that they thought was a stroke. I was rushed to the hospital. I'm not
Fuimos
going to
al
tell the whole
hospital.
long story, but
No
I
les voy
ended
a
up
decir
in the
toda la
hospital for
historia.
4 days. My husband brought all
Acabó en
my
el
food
hospital.
to the hospital. My husband weighed and
Mi
measured
marido
my
me
food.
trajo
Everything came to the
toda la
hospital. I
comida al
had asked
hospital.
for a few things,
Yo le
but
pregunto unas
everything
cosas.
came to the hospital with,
Todo vino al
this
hospital.
is 3 ounces, this is 12
Estos son 3
ounces,
onzas, estas son
right?
12 onzas.
Plus napkins, plus
Y
silverware,
servilletas,
plus a
y
plate
cubiertos.
for each meal, plus my laptop and my iPad,
Mi
and my
computadora,
iPhone.
mi iPad,
Anything I
mi
wanted.
iPhone,
I
todo lo
mean, this
necesario.
man is like,
Este hombre es
unbelievable.
un hombre
I
increíble.
had so many bad boyfriends. I'm not even
Después de
talking
tener
before I got
muchos malos
abstinent,
novios,
183 pounds. I wasn't having sex.
A los
After
180
I got
libres, por
out,
supuesto que no
first
podía
10 or
tener
12
sexo.
years, I was meeting all my boyfriends in AA. That was bad. That was really
Ahora
bad, girls.
conocí todos mis novios en Alcohólicos
The
Anónimos.
stories I could tell you.
Las historias que puedo
I
contar.
haven't run out of time yet. So I fell madly in love with the pedophile who was
Me
incarcerated.
enamoré con un
He got
pedófilo
a parole.
que estaba en la
He
cárcel.
got out for a few
Salió de la
months,
cárcel.
but it's a long story, but anyway, he got
Historia
a
larga.
parole. He got out. It was supposed to be a release. Oh, no,
Salió.
actually for a week. He kidnapped some little boy and
Secuestró a un
took
niño.
him to some cottage in New Jersey and
Y
was
lo llevó.
arrested again. And
Lo llevó a
I know
un
he's going to
lugar.
prison. This
Lo
is the boyfriends
arrestaron.
I had before. Okay.
Ese era el tipo de novios que tenía yo antes.
Now I have a husband.
Ahora tengo un
who's a
marido
scientist who's
que es un
who
científico
loves classical music,
que le
knows
gusta la
more
música
about literature
clásica,
than I do, and I'm a
que le
retired
encanta la
English teacher.
literatura.
You know, I mean, I'm not trying to say everything is perfect in
No les
life,
voy a decir
because
que
there's
todo es
stuff-
perfecto.
There's stuff that goes on in every
Por
life,
supuesto
but
que hay
I
cosas que
have a very
suceden,
happy marriage and
pero
happy
tengo una
home
vida muy
because
feliz,
I'm
un matrimonio
abstinent.
feliz, porque
Because
estoy
I learned to
abstinente,
step out of the way of myself.
porque ya no
Because I
estoy
learned
adentro
from
de
the
mis
steps
propias
and from other
decisiones,
people in the room
porque leo de los
that
pasos y de otra
first
gente,
of all, you
que lo
look at
primero que
yourself.
tengo que
How am
hacer,
I? Is my time up? I could talk forever. I learned not to cause my own problems.
he
A
aprendido
little bit
a
at a
no
time. I
crear
mean, I
mis
still
propios
do
problemas.
sometimes.
Sí,
All right,
sí lo
like
hago.
that event that I had a couple of weeks ago. I know why that happened. I know why my heart started racing. I know
Oh, lo
why
que
I
pasó,
started
el
running.
ataque cardíaco que
For
tuve
30
hace unos
minutes, I was
poquitos me
unable
di
to
cuenta,
talk
porque
or
30
read.
minutos
I
no
could
podía
look at the
hablar.
sentences on the page. I could not, it was like I forgot how to read. That's why they rushed
Me
me to the
olvidó cómo
hospital.
leer.
I was drinking so much caffeine. I just
Estaba tomando
love hyping up
tanto
my
café.
adrenal system.
Eso fue lo
And
que
the reason
pasó.
I was drinking so much caffeine, because the cardiologist has suggested to me that I cut back on my caffeine. So I started drinking decaf instead. But I thought,
Entonces el cardiólogo me dijo que no
Boy, this
tomara
stuff is
cafeína y tomé
we
de
brewing our own
decaf
decaf.
y empecé a tomar
So I was
demasiado.
drinking like 16 times as much decaf.
Entonces
as
estaba tomando
regular, and then
mucho
I had
más
something
que
else in it that
café.
had caffeine. Anyway, long story short,
Una historia
I'm still going to listen
larga.
to the neurologist. I'll do what she says. But
Ahora
that's,
estoy escuchando a un
I
neurólogo.
had a MRI on my head and it was totally normal. They said, Nora, you
Estoy
most
bien.
definitely did not have a stroke. We think
No
you
fue un
have a
ataque.
form of epilepsy, an adult onset
Una forma de
epilepsy.
epilepsia.
Later, after I got out of the hospital, Wes and I started reading about it. See that caffeine, only an addict could drink as much caffeine as I was
Solamente un
drinking
adicto
before that
puede
happened.
tomar la cantidad de
It
cafeína
just,
que yo
I'm
consumo.
just saying, I still
Nada
get
más
in
les
my
estoy
way
diciendo.
sometimes, but at
Todavía
least
me
at
meto en
some point in
problemas de
time
vez en
thinking I
cuando.
can be sensible. The next day, I
Pero
started
ahora puedo
measuring how much
comprender.
caffeine I was having, and it went from this
Ahora
much
sí puedo
to this
decir,
much.
estoy
So
tomando cafeína.
that's
Ya
my
pude
story.
reducir. Esa es mi
Thank you
historia.
for giving me the chance to share
Gracias
with
por
you.
darme.
It's fascinating learning how this works, although I
Muchas
have no
gracias por
understanding of
saber.
it whatsoever yet.
Me encanta
And
saber
I'll
cómo
pass the
funciona
meeting
esto.
back to whoever's leading.
Diana.
Diana, is that you?
Okay. Now, Tim, terminate.